Have you ever felt stuck, like you're sabotaging your own success, but you can't figure out why? And maybe you overthink something so much that you don't even start? Or you let anger or fear push you into a decision that you most likely will regret later? But these are not random feelings. These are actual patterns in your life, but once you recognize them, you can change them. Otherwise, if you don't, you will be stuck in a repetitive cycle over and over until you decide to make a change. Hi, hello, welcome to my channel. My name is Gloria, and today we will be discussing on how your feelings are actually sabotaging your life. We all experience emotions that are overwhelming, but what happens when those actual feelings start to take the driver's side in our life and we're basically sitting in the passenger side while frustration, sadness, anger, jealousy, envy take the wheel? This topic is deeply personal to me. I have spent days researching and reflecting on today's topic and also digging out the patterns that I see in my life continuously show up. I'm going to break down exactly how to spot these patterns and how to break them down into digestible, manageable steps and what to do instead. A very common emotional sabotage that we all fall victim to is overthinking. So imagine you've been given an opportunity to pitch a new idea at work or at school, and you got this great idea. You got this amazing idea, and you've convinced yourself that everyone is going to love it. But the moment you start thinking about it, you freeze. What if they don't like it? What if I sound dumb? What if I sound like I don't know what I'm talking about? And the list goes on. So you spend hours perfecting this craft, perfecting the idea of it, but you never actually bring it to fruition. So the idea just always lives inside of your head, but it's never actually living outside of you, all because of that repetitive cycle where it's a constant overthinking and freeze. And this is called analysis paralysis. So this is an example of what psychologists call rumination or overthinking. According to Dr. Suzanne Nolan Hoeksema, rumination overthinking does not solve any problems. It keeps you stuck in a loop of worry. Your brain is trying to avoid failure, but in doing so, you're not moving forward. Emotional reaction. Picture this. You've had a long day at work, you just got home, and your partner says something or does something that really bothers you. And so to add to this, you go off. You start saying things that you shouldn't say. You start maybe bringing something up in the past because you didn't have a good day. So now to come home and have this piled up on top of you, it feels overwhelming. But what you don't realize is your emotions have entirely hijacked your rational thinking. And this is what psychologists call amygdala hijack. In moments of strong emotion, your brain's emotional center completely takes over and hijacks all the rational thinking and basically tosses it to the side. We're going to be reacting emotionally now. But this happens because our brains are wired for survival. Your brain is trying to protect you, but it often leads to very poor decision making. And if not controlled, this can sabotage relationships, sabotage opportunities, and it can keep you just stuck in your own mind. It can actually get you to isolate from the people that you love, isolate from the things that you love to do, and it leads to very poor decision making. Another way that we sabotage is through avoidance. For example, you've been meaning to start or finish a big project that you've been working on, or you've been meaning to go to the gym as you promised yourself earlier that day, but you keep putting it off. You keep deciding, I'm gonna give myself maybe 20 more minutes. I'm gonna just sit here and scroll on my phone. Actually, let me go check Instagram. Oh, that reminds me. Let me go check TikTok. Oh, matter of fact, I'm hungry. So you're avoiding this task, but the work is still there. And at the back of your mind, you know you still need to do it. So you feel very heavy. It feels like a heavy blanket of avoidance is on top of you. Avoidance is just another form of emotional suppression. And we tend to do this when we feel overwhelmed. It's like our body decides, I'm gonna freeze and I'm gonna shut down because I don't know, because the thought of doing this thing is overwhelming me. But I do wanna say it might provide temporary relief. It definitely makes things worse in the long run because what you're doing is you're running from discomfort instead of confronting it. If you think about it, it's like adding a laundry list of more things you have to do for your future self to take care of because you're deciding to avoid it now. And you might be having that temporary relief, but it's going to come up again to the surface. But why do these things happen? Well, it's all linked to the way your brain is trying to protect you. It is that simple. But that doesn't mean that we need to allow it. It doesn't mean that we need to allow it to control and dictate our lives. But there is very good news is that with practice, with intentional practice, you can actually rewire these patterns in your brain to work for you rather than working against you. So now that we've identified the most common patterns, let's dive into how we can actually undo these things. Simply naming the emotion actually activates the prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for rational thinking. And it also helps calm down the amygdala, which is the emotional center. Let's say you're sitting in class and you start losing focus. You start feeling a little bit antsy, maybe you feel a little bit jittery, and you're feeling anxious. But instead of letting anxiety dictate your behavior, name the emotion. All you have to say to yourself is, I'm feeling anxious right now. And what this does is it lowers the intensity of the emotion and it helps you respond rationally. Another simple but yet effective technique is to pause and reflect. Before you respond, take a very quick moment to ask yourself, what is really going on here? Why do I feel this way? Dr. Tara Branch has a method labeled RAIN. R is recognize the emotion. A, allow it to exist without judgment. I, investigate the root cause. N, nurture yourself through it. This creates space between your feelings and your actions, and it helps you act a little bit more deliberately. And the last simple but very effective technique, take one step at a time. Dr. BJ Fogg's research at Stanford, it shows that writing down your list will help you build momentum. And I would like to add even a bonus in there is using the timer on your phone. I normally will ask Siri to start a 10-minute timer, and then I try to finish the task within that time frame. Because when you break down big, large tasks or a big, large to-do list into very small, tiny steps, you lower the resistance in your brain. And I just want to emphasize, when you feel overwhelmed and you feel like maybe it's better to avoid the task because it feels so large and you just don't want to start, I just want to say, don't be mean to yourself and don't say that you're lazy. Chances are you're overwhelmed. So I just want to advise you that if you take anything from today's episode, I advise that you start with the tiny little steps, one step at a time. So while these tools and techniques seem very, very simple, I do want to emphasize that they're rooted in psychological and neuroscience research. So by practicing these strategies, naming your emotions, pausing before reacting, and taking small actions, you'll start to notice a shift in how you respond to life's challenges. So to recap everything, I do want to say, your emotions and your feelings, they are not the enemy, but it is the way you react to them that can either hinder your life or can enhance your life. So rather than avoiding these emotions like you have been, how about we start to recognize them and let's start working with them rather than against them. Avoiding them doesn't actually do anything, but it actually creates more stress in your life. I want you to leave today by noticing one emotional reaction that tends to come up often when you feel overwhelmed. And I want you to take a moment to really reflect and really break it down to what you can do differently next time that it arises. The more you become aware of it, the more it becomes easier to not let it take control of you anymore. And just remember, friendly reminder to end this note, it is about progress, not perfection. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you next time. Bye.